Hello there, and
Hello.
welcome to the Star Bros podcast. This is Star Bros podcast episode 1. We are a podcast dedicated to talking about all the great things happening in Star Wars, whether it's any news, anything related to the movies, TV shows, video games, comics, whatever it is, we're going to talk about it. This is our very first episode, and to kick off things today, we're just going to go on a bit of a ramble. We don't have any real plan, but we're going to talk about some of the things that we like. We're going to start with a hot piece of news. But before I do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Lamont, and I am joined by...
My name's Roland.
And we're brothers.
Yeah, boy.
I'm just going to hit it straight off the bat. I know you wanted to talk about certain theories, but something came out yesterday. Some piece of news, which is good timing, because obviously we're in a bit of a dry season with Star Wars. Not much is happening. There's
Working up to it.
A little bit of rumors here and there leading up to episode 9, so we're not getting too much around. However, obviously with the release of DisneyPlus coming out in November, we've got an interesting rumor going around, heavy speculation on it, that Ewan McGregor is in talks to reprise the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus.
Yes.
Tell me your thoughts, Rolly.
Can I just say, Ewan McGregor, best thing about the prequels. Agreed?
100%.
Yeah. I think we can all agree, no matter our opinion on those films, that Ewan McGregor was awesome. Really excited. Hope it's true.
So do I. Well, it's funny because ever since the release of Solo, Lucasfilm's gone a bit of a spiral, and they've kind of, they've really shut the bed, because they pulled the plug on all these productions that they had going, and rumor was that one of them, they were actually in pre-production for a Obi-Wan. I don't know whether it was going to be a movie or a series. I think it might have been a series actually at the time, and they actually pulled the plug on pre-production, which obviously was probably the worst thing that could have happened, because if everyone's got an opinion on what they want to see, but I think one thing that we can all agree on is that we want to see Ewan McGregor reprise his role, and I'm on the train as well. It's interesting. I'm on the train to see a TV series for it.
Yes.
Because originally I would have thought, you wouldn't get, that good of a production value coming out of a TV series. But I think what we're seeing little snippets from The Mandalorian is that, we haven't seen an official trailer. I don't know if you've watched any of the leak footage.
Yeah.
Come out of Comic-Con or Star Wars Celebration this year. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's probably better that Obi-Wan series happens rather than a movie, because you're exploring almost 20 years in between episode 3 and 4. So it's I think it's actually a good opportunity to do a Disney Plus series, and I'm actually really surprised that we're starting to hear this, because I honestly thought once they pulled the plug on Obi-Wan, I honestly didn't think we were going to get anything probably for another 5 years or so with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I thought maybe the danger with doing an Obi-Wan film was that it was going to be like, I think everyone wanted like this brooding Obi-Wan on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Brooding away in a cave by himself and having it be this really serious drama film. But I think Star Wars is at its best with films like Solo, funnily enough. I think that's the best of the new films by far, because I think it embraces what Star Wars should be, which is just like a fun action romp. It can have some serious themes in it, but it doesn't have to be so sad. And I don't know. It doesn't have to be a downer.
No, it doesn't. I guess, probably one of the things is that you take away from, seeing A New Hope is that it's a there's some downers in it, but it's a happy adventure, it's the hero journey. And, I guess maybe in some form Star Wars has kind of driven away from that. It's not always a happy ending, perhaps. But in saying that too, the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi is really a tragedy. It is. And I don't know. I think if you actually go in and read some of the comics that have come out, it's a little bit explored Obi-Wan when he's first on Tatooine after the events of episode 3, and he really is become a downer. But when the reason it's justified.
Yeah.
He pretty much almost had to kill. He doesn't even know that at this point, but he almost had to kill his his brother almost.
I think it comes down to who's writing it, who's directing it.
Yeah.
I think Jon Favreau is doing a couple of the episodes for The Mandalorian and helming the overall project.
Yeah.
And I think they've got some other really good directors doing some work on that series as well. If they can get like quality writers and a good director on it, no worries.
I think that's where they've probably haven't always. It's probably not Disney's strongest point is selecting people for these projects to create them.
Stay away, please.
Yeah, I know. We're not fans of Rian Johnson here, I don't think. But I mean, look, it's not that we're not fans of Rian Johnson, just not fans of what he created in The Last Jedi. But
I'm
I mean,
not a fan of Rian Johnson.
We could,
Rian Johnson's a turd.
Yeah, not a fan. Yeah, I liked like Looper. I haven't seen Brick. Everyone says, I don't know. From what I've heard, people like, yeah, Brick's alright. I haven't seen it. I really liked Looper, actually. I thought it was really good.
Looper's okay.
Yeah, I really liked that. But yeah, anyway, getting back to the topic of Obi-Wan, I think it's really, really good news, and I hope this is actually true, and it's not just another rumor going around. And I think that they really actually need this series to probably to revive the fandom, I guess, because obviously, there's ever since the release of Last Jedi, it probably hasn't been the same.
Do you know what the other bit of news? And again, this is all speculation and rumor, but the other bit of news that came with that was that they were still going to move ahead with doing another trilogy, and they actually announced, or there's speculation about the years that they're going to be releasing another trilogy of films.
Yeah.
But Rian Johnson hasn't been confirmed as director-writer like he originally was. There was speculation that they had cancelled his trilogy after the poor reception from The Last Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I just think, it doesn't really make much sense. I mean, The Last Jedi made money at the end of the day. It is business, and, that's what Disney looks at. They do look at the numbers. But I just think there's so many more talented people out there and more qualified people probably, to create these stories. I think something that Disney's really been lacking in the movies is storytelling. And, I just think they need maybe have someone at the same level as Kathleen Kennedy. She can handle the production of things. And I think they need someone a bit stronger to do the storytelling, though, because...
she needs to stop handling anything at this point. She should be out.
Yeah, I know. Look, I don't mind if you had someone that was head of storytelling and head of some production, because she could do the production. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But I just think if she's handling storytelling, it's not benefiting the whole franchise. I don't know if you're familiar with Dave Filoni. No. Everyone wants that guy to be head of storytelling. Pretty much.
What's he do?
So he was actually, when George Lucas was still with Lucasfilm, he was actually George Lucas's protege. So he was actually working under him doing the Clone Wars series, cartoon series, which is phenomenal. That series is awesome. Obviously, if you haven't watched it, I really do recommend it. It does take a while to get into because obviously the first couple of seasons are a bit kiddish, but there's really some certain themes in there and storylines told and some character development that you would argue is better than some of the movies that they produce. Which
my understanding with because I haven't seen a lot of the like the Clone Wars, or what was the one after the Clone Wars?
Rebels.
Yeah, the Rebels. Both of them have gotten really great reception.
Yeah.
The thing that I take from that when I listen to you and other people talk about it is that they do really well with their character development. They pick really interesting characters and develop them. I mean, we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but if you take Rogue One, for example, introduces a few characters who could be interesting, but for my money, they kind of fail to develop any of those characters.
Yeah.
So I was happy with the Obi-Wan announcement because it might mean that they actually get to develop this character in an interesting way and do him some justice over a series as opposed to a 2-hour film.
Yeah, absolutely. You get more. Yeah, you certainly get. Or you increase your chance of getting better character development out of a series.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Yeah. In saying that though, it's interesting. I'll pick on that point of Rogue One is something that probably something that the movies don't do very well is that they don't do character development very well. But something that these shows do, or these comics and books do, is that they take those characters from the movies for a couple minutes and then they extend on them in the books and the TV shows. I know remember Director Krennic in Rogue One. If you continue reading this Thrawn series, you'll find out more about him. Which is really interesting. I do want to touch on some of the books as well, like the Thrawn series. Obviously, you just started it. As you can see in front of you, we've got the third book right there, Thrawn Trees. And if you guys haven't read any of the books, I would highly recommend starting with Thrawn. There's now a trilogy of books. As we all know, Thrawn was kind of, the big series to come out in the early 90s. And they've, it was... People say, it revived the whole Star Wars hype back in the early 90s because being no movies back then, there was not really much happening. But they created this character, Thrawn, which was, heir to the Empire. So they had this character who kind of led the Empire after Return of the Jedi. They've taken, obviously, when Disney bought Lucasfilm, everything became, what's the word I'm looking for? Legends. And then they took this character from Legends and kind of recreated him to fit in between the events of episode 3 and 4. And it's really interesting, actually, because his storyline obviously brings in all these characters, some characters we've seen before, some new ones who are fantastic. But his particular storyline brings in a lot of politics.
Right.
Which is not something that I was really a fan of in the movies. Not that there's much politics to go off in the movies anyway, unless you watch a little bit of the prequels. I mean, there's a little bit here and there, but it's really interesting because it delves into a whole nother part of Star Wars. So, cool. It's interesting. It really is interesting with the whole politics because something that I've become fascinated in the last couple of years is how the Empire works. They all work for the one dude. They all work for the Emperor, but they've all got their own agenda. So it's really interesting.
There could be room for like a cool Game of Thrones style Star Wars spin-off.
Well, I mean, that's kind of where the Thrawn series kind of goes. I mean, everyone's got their own agenda, and it's kind of what Game of Thrones is. Everyone's got their own agenda and wants to do their own thing.
Did you see that it's the Game of Thrones writers who are apparently writing the next
Benny
3
Wise
films?
and Oz. Yeah. We can talk about that. What do you think?
Well, Game of Thrones is trash now.
Yeah.
The last couple of seasons were anyway.
Seasons, as everyone says. But I don't know. I mean, people were saying, the last season was trash because, they were in the rush to start the Star Wars thing. But I've heard somewhere, I couldn't tell you what source it was, but apparently they had all the time in the world, and I believe that they did, to actually finish the series off right. I know we're not talking about Star Wars, we're talking about Game of Thrones, but they had all the time in the world to do that.
Just a quick note on Game of Thrones too, though. It's like, obviously George R. R. Martin only got so far with the books, and then they had to sort of take over, and it must have been difficult taking over, someone else's characters and then trying to write an ending that was not only satisfying what the author was going to do in the first place, but what the audience wanted. So maybe these guys will do well with a fresh start. They can develop their own characters. We'll see. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, it's rumored. It's rumored that they're going to do an Old Republic, which is obviously what everyone wants to see.
Cool. Yep. The technology's there for it now.
Technology's there. Yeah. They should just do it. And I think they will, because I like to think that, Lucasfilm is actually starting to listen to their fans a bit more in what they want. So I hope that's true. I hope they do create an Old Republic, and actually get on some new ground. We're all about these spin-offs from the originals and the sequels, but we haven't delved anywhere new.
True.
I think it's probably, and obviously looking at that gap between episodes 3 and 4, that's what I like to look at that stuff too. But let's get some new things, because this whole show about Cassian Andor from Rogue One, I'm just like, I don't care.
I agree. I would like to Star Wars to stop relying on the nostalgia of the old films.
Absolutely.
Like The Last Jedi, again, it's another rabbit hole. We could talk about this
Yeah.
for hours. What we think of The Last Jedi, but the thing that film did the best was that it really used its nostalgia. Arguably, what it did the worst was bringing in new things that did make sense. No one liked the new stuff. Everyone liked seeing Luke Skywalker, wielding a lightsaber again. No one cared about Finn and whatever the other chick's name is going to the casino planet.
Rose.
Yeah, just start something new, get some good writers on board, go for gold. Do something good, Disney. This is your chance. Come on, Kathleen.
It is. They do have a chance, and I really do think that this Disney Plus series will do them well. I hope it does, because we've also heard rumors that they're going to be. It's interesting you say about the trilogy as well. Going back to trilogy point, because they came out and they said that might have even been Bob Iger, head of Disney, who came out and said, they're going to stop doing saga films for a while.
I think Star Wars just got to a place where everyone was angry with it.
Yeah.
And they had to do... I think it's a PR spin. I mean, they said that, but now look at what they're doing. Now they've just reaffirmed that they're going to do another trilogy.
Yeah.
I mean, how seriously should we take that? I mean, they're going to keep making Star Wars movies for the next 30 years. There's probably going to be like 10 more trilogies. Who knows?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, they've come out. I don't know if you remember, but might have been. It was one of the Star Wars celebrations. They had a whole panel about what the future was seeing. They had a whole Boba Fett movie happening.
Yep.
They had this whole timeline of planned up until 2025 or whatever it was, and they had all these movies planned, and that whole timeline's been canned now, and they forever change it. So the future is unknown with Star Wars. Anything could happen, I guess. But we'll delve into a particular theory Rolly and I very briefly touched on this morning, and we said we would save it for the podcast. But that is the theory that Kylo Ren is a double agent. So he's quote unquote working with the First Order, but he's actually doing the Resistance a favor by trying to take him out on the inside, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you like this theory?
Well, let me start by saying the thing that works for me the most out of the new films is Kylo Ren. He is the best actor, Adam Driver, that's in these new films. He's by far the most interesting person. I think it would be a really cool arc for his character. The last film wanted to make a big deal about, let's not be a Jedi and let's not be a Sith Lord. And I think you could really take that narrative and make it interesting if it did mean that, Kylo Ren was a character that was trying to walk a line between both, and had his own agenda outside of those usual philosophies. But I don't know, it could be cool. Depends. What do you reckon?
I hate it. I hate it.
Why?
I don't know if you've actually seen, there is a book coming out, and it's actually about Luke Skywalker's point of view of all these characters within the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll just see if I could find it. They released a couple pages from the book. But anyway, Luke Skywalker, he goes on and he gives a point of view of all these big characters, one of them being Kylo Ren. Obviously, we knew this before this little tidbit came out, but Kylo Ren, he went on a rampage. He murdered half. It pretty much this little paragraph was saying he murdered half of his Luke Skywalker's apprentices, and those were pretty much the people that wouldn't join him. And then the people that did join him, we could speculate it's probably going to be the Knights of Ren. But it's just it doesn't really make any sense to go on, kill Luke Skywalker's half apprentices, have a brooding Luke Skywalker who's really disappointed, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, he's a good guy. He's just doing it for the right thing.
I don't know. See, okay, well, I don't know if it makes him a good guy. I'm not really interested in Kylo Ren being a good guy. I think sometimes in war, for example, you need someone who's not a good guy to get shit done. Like, back in the Crusades, the churches used knights. Knights weren't nice people. Like, they were pretty rowdy, sexually promiscuous. Like, they weren't nice people. But they got shit done on behalf of the church and in defense of the faith. And I think that you could have that similar arc with Kylo Ren where, no, he's not a good guy and he was willing to do something horrible for perhaps the sake of drawing Palpatine out and getting to him and perhaps killing him. So I think rather than, and this is the thing right now, it's like, up until I read this theory, it seemed like there was only two ways that they could, go with this character, and that's either they make Kylo a good guy and he turns at the last minute, or they make him a bad guy and they go all the way and they have to kill him. But I like that there's a third option where he's neither, but you can understand his motivations and you can't necessarily condone or you can't condone or go against what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah. But I hope he sticks to his guns and he ends up. Well, the thing is too, is that did
you see the other theory with Luke? There was another one as well that tied into this, which is that, and I think this one's pretty silly, but basically that Luke was he wasn't ever alive. Like Kylo Ren actually killed him when he burnt down the temple, and that Luke is actually just like a trapped soul on that planet. And the reason why he's a trapped soul is because he didn't know how to turn into a Force ghost, and then he could only become an apparition in an area that was really strong with the Force, and that's why he didn't leave that place. Maybe, I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, they kind of ruined everything with The Last Jedi. Now they've got to fix it, and I thought maybe those were two things that could at least make it acceptable. The trilogy, but
I don't mind that. The only problem is in something that these two, when I say two movies, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, the only two things that they have failed on is building on the lore. And I feel like an explanation like that is only going to confuse general audiences, and they're going to be like, "Oh, what?" You and I would understand that. Hardcore Star Wars fans would understand that, and that's the kind of stuff we would want to see, is stuff being built on the lore. But that's these two movies haven't done anything at all.
If you get the right director and a good writer, that they can do that. I agree. It's difficult though.
It's and in my opinion, it's too late. We're three deep. We're 3 movies deep now. It's obviously too late to do something like that. You can't just have 2 movies being a blank and then start building on all this lore. You should have been doing that on the beginning. Yeah, that should have been done. But all we can hope for now in Rise of Skywalker Episode 9 is that J.J. Abrams does what he does. He'll give it a good ending. I hope so. I didn't really hate The Force Awakens. It's just, I don't like that people say it was a rehash of New Hope. It was, but it's like, why is that a bad thing? In a way as well. It's not. Yeah. People make it out to be a bad thing, but I mean, they did the right thing with The Force Awakens as well. You got to understand that was reviving the fandom again. That was the very first movie they had in 10 years from Disney. So they did what they did, and J.J. Abrams will do what he needs to do with this movie. He'll give it a good ending. He'll hopefully give more answers than questions.
I think the thing is, too, it's like, J.J. Abrams probably had an idea for what he wanted the trilogy to look like. And so maybe I reckon he's probably got some things that he had originally planned out that Rian Johnson scrapped, because apparently Rian Johnson got J.J. Abrams treatment for the rest of the story and threw it out, and then just did his own thing.
Well, so
maybe it's J.J. Abrams bringing back some of these old, theories, because I mean, you can go online. It's a bit of fun to read this sort of stuff. Anyone can go online and see. I'll read this theory for themselves, but people have taken the time to obviously catalog lines of dialogue in the films that relate back to why this theory might be credible. It's worth a look. But yeah, maybe these were things that were there to begin with that he can finish off when the lore was planted there, and hopefully maybe they'll be, we can look back at them in a new light and then see, oh yeah, this is what's happening. Maybe not. Maybe I'm giving JJ too much credit. Probably.
Well, I don't even blame Rian Johnson for throwing out the treatment. I mean, I'm not saying that what JJ had planned was bad. The whole problem was that they didn't have a George Lucas figure, which is someone who can keep the continuity of the story.
Agree.
And they didn't have anything. And what it seems like is that, JJ might have had planned some from the beginning, but the Kathleen Kennedy, it just seemed like they didn't have anything planned from the beginning. It just seemed like they were going with the flow. They let, because you look at the original trilogy, they all had different directors. It works. It's not the different directors that's an issue. It's the story. It's having the writers and the storytelling group. It's having that same group going and having a rough idea from the beginning, but they know where they want to be in the beginning and they know where they want to end up.
Yeah.
And I don't think they knew, or maybe JJ had an idea, but they didn't have someone to enforce that.
So it always comes back to Kathleen Kennedy being terrible.
Yeah,
get rid of her.
It should have been something that you'd expect to be planned out, especially from Disney, but didn't happen. So that's the way the dice rolls, I guess.
That's life, boys.
That's life. What else we got? John Williams' brother came out. I forget his name.
Came out?
Yeah, he came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
John Williams.
Stunning.
I can't remember what his brother's name is. I do apologize, but they pretty much came out and they said that they have started composing the movie, and they did spoil the runtime. I think it was about 2 hours and 15 minutes or something.
Well, they requested 2 hours and 15 minutes worth of music.
Yeah, which could probably equate to 2.5 hours, because obviously not every single second of the movie is going to have music. But yeah, 2.5 hours. I think that's probably the right thing. I think, go any less, you're probably not giving the movie enough time to give it answers, and yeah, it's supposed to be a big movie. We got Return of Palpatine.
Well, we think we do.
That's the problem, isn't it?
What's that we don't know anything?
No, it's not that we don't know anything. It's just, I think, because being Star Wars fans, we're probably arguably the fandom with the highest expectations out of any single fandom in the world, and that's purely because of out of love and passion for the franchise. But the problem is that ever since we saw that trailer this year, and you hear Palpatine's laugh at the end, and then probably what's going to happen is that he's probably going to have a few minutes screen time, and then people are going to be disappointed.
You know what though? It is marketing genius to bring Palpatine back.
And then at the panel as well, where they showcase the trailer, to have Ian McDiarmid come on stage, and he's like, roll it again. Who
confirmed his return, seemingly confirmed his return to the film.
Yeah.
We'll see.
He's
awesome, so hopefully...
Ian McDiarmid is great. He's phenomenal. That's why, again, I recommend you watch Rebels, and I recommend you watch Clone Wars.
Does he voice it?
He voices in Rebels.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
They got I can't remember who they got. You'll recognize him if you saw his face to voice him in the Clone Wars. But anyway, it's all interesting.
Yeah.
Have you got any more notes to add to the podcast tonight?
No, I think we've covered the latest news pretty well.
I think that's actually it. I don't really think there was too much else that came out. But yeah, it was really interesting to read that few pages of that book that was coming out, point of view from Luke Skywalker. He gives his point of view on the Clone Wars, and so it's all canon. So that comes out end of this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what have we got? 4 months.
4 months. Yeah. Got a new game coming out between now and then. Fallen Order.
Yeah, which will probably have some sort of tease. Because, I mean...
Oh, yeah, of course it will. Yeah. It'll have some sort of tease, and Yeah, the Star Wars Resistance Season 2, which is Disney's 2D show for Star Wars. They got like it's this one's a bit more aimed at the kid audience, so it's actually season 2 and final season.
Cool.
Before that was announced today, a trailer came out. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it, guys.
Awesome.
No worries, and we will catch you next time.
See you later.